Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We have a wonderful guest here on Shine Your Light today. We have my friend from LinkedIn, Megan Murphy, who is joining us today. Thank you, Megan, for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
We enjoy having folks on that are shining their light all around the world and doing good deeds and sharing and creating that ripple effect of kindness that we all have come to enjoy and be empowered by. And yours is one that I've already told you I'm a big fan of following all the different good stories about your project and how the kids are enjoying, well, kids and adults all enjoy participating in a very simple, beautiful project you call it's the Kindness Rocks project, right?
Yes, yes, it is.
So share with everyone first of all, how did you get into that? And then tell about the evolution of how that has been going and where that's gone here in the last several, has it been years or has it just been a year?
No, it's been 5 years.
5 years. Okay. All right. Okay. I came along late then.
You were late to the party.
Right on. Right on. Yeah. So share how you got started with that beautiful project.
Sure. Well, what happened was that maybe some of the viewers out there might understand this personally. I was going through a transitional period of my life where the job, and in my case, it was my own personal business that I was in, no longer brought me joy. And, I had worked really, really hard at building that business for 15 years. It was a chain of fashion jewelry stores. And I grew up from a flea market booth to multiple stores across Cape Cod where I live. And so I put a lot of time and energy into that. And so it was almost like a baby of sorts of mine. And I found in the beginning great joy in the work that I was doing. As the business became more successful, I lost that joy, and I was very confused because most people that start a business, their dream is to have financial success. And at the time, I realized that that was not a goal that I wanted to continue to pursue, because I just found myself being unhappy. And when I was unhappy, I was not the best mother, not the best wife, not the best friend. I think when we are at odds with ourselves and feeling, uncertainty, or that there's some sort of a change that needs to happen, that can be really scary.
Right.
And so, what happened was I, did a lot of introspection at the time, and, the fear of remaining where I was, it just became too overwhelming for me. And I thought, I need to break through this and I need to try something new, not knowing what that new thing would be. But I knew that I needed that shift. And so I gave up that business. And at that time, I did not know what I was going to do next. Right. And so the only thing that I did know was that I live on Cape Cod and I'm surrounded by beautiful beaches. And so I could put my shoes on and go for a walk on the beach. That's when, on my walks, I started, becoming more introspective and quiet. And I realized that over those 15 years, I rarely walked to the beach and I rarely got quiet, because I do what most of us do when we are going through grief. And so why I'm introducing grief at this point was that my mom and dad had passed away right before I started that business, when I was in my early 20s. And so I started the business, I started having kids, anything to keep myself busy so I would not feel that grief.
Right.
What happens to most of us if we push that down, it comes back in another way. So now having lost my business, the grief of my parents was also showing up. I'm walking on the beach, and I get quiet, and I start looking for signs and messages by way of heart-shaped rocks or pieces of sea glass. And it was almost like I was having conversations with my mom and dad. And it just made me feel really happy every time that I found a heart-shaped rock. And I also noticed that the other people that were walking that very same beach looked the way I did. Not physically, they might be men, or, they might be children, but a lot of people go to the beach for introspection.
Sure.
And so at that time, I just realized that maybe other people were feeling the same way as me. And so on one of my walks, I brought a Sharpie marker, and I started writing inspirational messages on those rocks to leave them for others, to uplift them. So maybe one of these messages would be like my heart-shaped rock that I found.
Wow, that is nice. Now, with so it feels like you are going for that. My favorite word that I found in the last couple of years is contentment. And that feeling and that sense of contentment, we always thought we were supposed to chase the dollar. And when we get to $1 million, we should be just incredibly happy, But I love that that you had that ability to have that introspection, that understanding when you were searching for something that you knew, and you felt it when you were walking on the beach. So you saw the other folks walking, and you felt that they were trying to mindfully connect they were looking for something as well, right?
Yeah, I suspected, I wasn't sure. Many of us, we think that we're the only ones that
Right.
have thoughts or feelings. But I did notice, just that, if I would say hello to them, often they would act like I wasn't even there, and not on a conscious level. I don't think they were trying to be rude or mean, or I think they were really in their own heads.
Sure.
And so, yeah, that was the first moment that I thought, And on that very first day, Bert, that I pulled the Sharpie out of my pocket, I only had I left 5 rocks. And the beach is filled with hundreds and hundreds of rocks.
Right.
And I walk about 1.5 miles down that beach. And so you can imagine that those 5 rocks are like a needle in a haystack. And that very first night, a friend of mine found one of my rocks, and she texted me and said, was this you? And I said no, because I'm a middle-aged woman who does this. But she told me that it really, it helped her, and it changed her day and her outlook. And so that's why I continued. But I feel like that was a moment of divine intervention, because I don't think I would have continued to do it had she not texted me that.
Yeah. Wow. That's already a ripple effect that you're able to witness that. Have you been able to see others that have picked up some of your rocks here? I'm sure that you have now. Over 5 years, you've been able to witness some of this impact.
Yeah. So personally, I mean, the first year I was anonymous for an entire year. And so, through that anonymity, it was really interesting, because I was on social media, but it was not about me, because it's not about me.
Right.
It wasn't until, like you're showing now, the Today Show and things like that, that it really got, the cat was out of the bag, who I was. But now people from around the world send me their stories, because so many people have started their own groups, which is what I never intended to start this, but when people started reaching out to me, I said, here, do what I did. Here's my tools. Go do this, and do this in your community. Start your own group. And so when they do this in Germany, in India, in Africa, in California, in Idaho, and they drop their rocks, people come and they share their stories with me about the power of one rock. whether it be a recipient and what they feel when they found a rock, or someone who has stumbled upon this project and they started creating rocks for others. Both are both have such a great impact, and the stories are just so beautiful.
Wow. Now, so you now, do you still leave these rocks out in your coastline, or do you
Yeah,
have,
absolutely.
I'm sure you have like a group of a bunch of folks now that y'all get together and paint and do that type of thing, right?
Well, I wish I did, Bert, personally. I am, I'll tell you what, it's a practice. It's almost like I have many practices. I'm a life
Right.
coach, but, part of my practice is taking long walks on the beach every day. I meditate. I do art therapy, and that's what I call this, the art of connecting. So every morning I grab a cup of coffee, and then rather than turning on the news, I sit and I create rocks. It typically on any given day, I do 3 to 5 rocks. And the process is that I get very introspective, and I write a message on a rock that I would like to find myself for whatever is going on with me personally, because I believe that whatever is happening with me must also be happening with somebody else in the world, and that they may be having very similar thoughts and feelings. And so if I create this and I put it on a rock, not being attached to who may find it, that's like a healing process takes place. So I personally, because I spend 8 hours a day, I'd say, online, answering people who reach out to me.
Wow.
I unfortunately don't get to paint with people that much unless I travel and I do workshops and things. But I'm jealous when I go to these communities and people are all together and they have this lovely community where they get together and they paint and they celebrate birthdays and deaths and marriages and births, and they're just beautiful communities. And I feel like I long for that, but that's not my role. That's not what I was given. I was given the role to facilitate this unexpectedly. And so what I have come to find is that I must give to others what I need myself. And so letting others know that they matter and somebody's here to listen to them, that's all that people really want. And so that's what I dedicate every single day to. And anything that takes me away from that goal and that intention, I'm very careful of where I spend my time, because that's the most important part.
Wow. Well, God bless you. I love this. You know, we talk about on this show. I talk to everyone about, and I think I emailed you a little bit about the ripple effect. That we talk about the ripple effect that this has, which you've already shared a little bit of that. And I hear what you've said about how what you're doing. There's almost an empowerment that I feel comes with kindness. It's like the person that's receiving it and getting it, it's like a beautiful, magical thing. But then the person giving it has this beautiful, magical thing that happens to them that empowers their giving soul, that helps them have a feeling. So, and then through that one act, go from there on how you've seen that explode out of just the one act of the one rock and the giving of that. I love. Please share that.
Well, so let me start small and then I'll expand outward.
Okay.
So because that's where it all begins, right? Like
Right.
before, in my prior life, I was looking outward and not really within. But we really all need to start within ourselves. What feels right to ourselves, and then we emulate that out. So now everything that I look at, whether it be a simple question like yours or anything, I take the time to like go within and really think of what that means for me. And then I assume that if this is true for me as human beings, it's probably true for somebody else. So,
Yeah.
So the process of these rocks, again, as you just eloquently said, it's for the giver and the receiver, and without expectations, right? So when
Right.
I make my rock and I put a message on that rock that resonates with me, and I go on my walk and I leave it for somebody else. And somebody else finds that rock and that message, and they think, is this for me? And they pick it up and they look at the message and they think, oh, this relates to me in some way, right? So they connect with the inspiration that's on the rock. But the magic happens. I love that you use the word magic, because the magic happens after. So after they relate to the message on the rock, they realize, wait a minute, there's another human being somewhere who I may never meet,
Right.
that created this message, and this message has meaning to me. So therefore, if the message has meaning to me and they wrote it, it must have meaning to them. So I'm not alone. And then this strange connection is made. A beautiful connection is made. So now that's starting small. Now let's look at that amplified around the world, right? And the power of that ripple, that when, each person that either finds a rock or creates the rock, if they go through that process and they have that same thought process, right? Because we're all human beings, and that's very elementary, that whole process. Like, imagine just that good feeling and that good energy going out, and it's all over something as simple as a rock, and taking a little bit of time, to do something for somebody else. Tomorrow's my daughter's birthday, and she's now a vegan, and I'm looking everywhere for vegan cakes because she wasn't vegan last year. And so, I'm spending a lot of time and energy like calling around to bakeries, and here on Cape Cod, you have to order way in advance because the world is here right now.
Sure.
And so after like the third bakery, I was like, oh, wait a minute. No one has vegan cakes, but I can try and make one myself. I can go on Pinterest, and then it won't even be about how that cake tastes. It's about that I made it for her.
That's right.
Right? It's like that process. So it's going back to the simple things of letting people know that you care and spending the time,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing that I envision as you're speaking is that person taking that rock, having it in their hand, and as they're painting it, and as they're doing whatever the message is that's coming to their mind, that they're feeling, that they want to put down on the rock, and how they might be thinking about what that means to them, and then what maybe might be the magical thing that's going to happen to the person that sees it, or the one or two, three people that keep on laying it down and keep on sharing that same fun little message that they took the time to create and to produce on this fun little rock,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because one message can have so many meanings for so many people.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what's going on in their life, right? So that's the other beautiful part about it. It's like, because we all see life, our lives are all different, but we have shared emotions, right? So we see things through our own lenses. And so, we can look at this very same message on a rock, and it can have completely different meanings for each of us. That's so beautiful and wonderful.
Right. Now, I have seen, you've had these cute little children doing these classroom projects that each of them is doing a rock, and then they make a rock garden, right? I mean, there's different things. There's rock gardens, there's these little rock rivers that they create, and all of them have these special little messages. Talk about some of those projects that you've seen the classrooms do.
Yeah. So the inspiration garden that you were talking about, that was up on the screen a little while ago, about a year into the project, I was walking on the beach again, and a piece of driftwood washed ashore. And I saw that piece of driftwood, and I thought, oh my gosh, what if I planted an inspiration garden? And what if I put a sign that says, take one if you need one, share one with a friend, or, leave one for another. And then the tagline came to me on that walk. It was like, one message at just the right moment can change someone's entire day, outlook, or life. And so this is an example of an inspiration garden that's still today, at 5 years, at this beach that I walk every day. And so I encourage people to do the same thing, right? Like, we're planting seeds of kindness, and it grows because people add to it. They take from it, they add to it. So that's one way that a lot of the children love too, but also communities as a whole. Also, a lot of schools do rivers, that go through their schools. And now, especially over in Europe, one of the biggest things is they're doing snakes. So what they do is they pick a long, like maybe a stone wall in town or something, and they see how long the snake can grow. So they just line them up, and the community loves it, and they all get involved, and it's just such a beautiful thing.
I love it. I love it. And what's the furthest you've seen a rock travel?
Oh my goodness. I mean, the rocks have traveled everywhere. So many people, um, my personal rocks, I've seen them. Well, I mean, social media. I have one rock that's been shared over 1 million times on social media.
Oh my
And every
God.
time it comes up in my feed, I'm like, oh my gosh, I did the rock like 5 years ago, and there it is. But yeah, physically they're shared and carried around the world. That's another thing. I mean, you can visit someplace, find a rock, and it is what it is. If you need the rock, you hold on to that rock and you keep that because someone made it. And they would want you to have that. But also, if you find one of these rocks and like you keep it maybe for a year or two, and then you no longer need it because life happens and you're over whatever it is, you can go and leave that someplace else for somebody else, which is what a lot of people do. One of the most beautiful things, Bert, is that people who have lost children, as a way to keep their memory alive, they
Mm.
do remembrance rocks. So they do
Oh,
kindness rocks, but on the back they'll say like in memory of their son or daughter, and and it's really beautiful. I've interviewed several of these grieving parents, and they feel as if their child is able to live on. And inspire others, and their rocks are going to places that they were never able to physically get to in their lifetime, but their rocks are being spread, and these parents find great joy and comfort in that.
yeah, absolutely. That is got to be something that is healing for them to be able to see and feel that the memory of their loved one is creating a ripple effect for others.
Yeah, one of the most powerful experiences that I have had thus far is I visited Parkland, Florida, both on the 1 year anniversary and the second anniversary this past February 14th. And the kids paint rocks for healing after
Sure.
tragedy. So, giant school shooting, and the kids use these rocks for art therapy to heal and to, spread kindness amidst, their community. So,
Yeah, I am a big believer that kindness is a healing tool to be able to empower your own self. It's difficult for folks. I've been in a place of depression, hard depression, and everybody wants to say, reach out, lend a hand. That's not something that's going to help the other. They need the ability to get out of that funk themselves, and through the acts of kindness. I think thinking of others. When you think of others, you don't absorb, and you're not thinking so much about the monkey mind, as I call it, of taking you down to a negative place. And the more you think about others or do fun acts of kindness, you end up then at a pretty good place after that happens. And it's a self-empowerment. And you have given that tool for them to have a tool to empower themselves to be able to perpetuate that act of kindness. And that is something we don't have much of in our world.
yeah, and I'd love to say that I was brilliant and I thought about all of that ahead of time, Bert, but you know what? Some of the most beautiful things in this world are just birthed from our own personal need. And then, if it helps us, then and if we have courage and we put it out into the world, and then we can never imagine the beauty that it creates. I mean, I had no idea that this would be so healing and so beautiful, and that so many people would take up their paint pens and paint it forward for one another. It's just, it
Well,
is.
they get it. They get it. You know, they see the message, they get it, they feel it, and they see the simplicity of it.
Yes, absolutely.
It is that fun thing. Well, the fun thing about it is rocks are not as plentiful here in Florida, you
Right.
know? So it's fun when, so the Kindness Rocks project, we're going to have some fun with that here. And my kids, I have 4 kids under 13.
Oh,
So we can have some fun with, our neighbor actually has some river rocks that I'm thinking about right now that we could have some fun with creating some of those and leaving them. Do a lot of people leave them on like some of the walking areas, like the paths because we have a lot of walking trails around here.
yeah, absolutely. One of the things that you want to, I'm glad that you brought this up though. One of the things that you want to be sure is that there's an organization called Leave No Trace. So you can go on to leavenotrace.org, and I have a link on my website at the bottom for them. You really have to be mindful of where you drop the rocks, so you can't leave them in national parks or on mountaintops and things like that. But in communities, yes, absolutely, here and there. In fact, yesterday I was sitting in my living room, and their TV was on in the background, and the Tamron Hall show was on. And she was doing a show about, in Colorado, a woman that said, "This is my good news of the day." And she's showing rocks all along a trail that she runs and how it inspires her. And I thought, oh, that's so awesome. And the other thing I wanted to share with you is that, yes, rocks can be very difficult, to find, obviously, but many of the landscape supplies companies sell them because people use them in landscaping. And in addition to that, on my website, I have free downloadable things for kids. And there is a great quick recipe and these little silicone soap molds that you can buy, and you can make your own rocks. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And they're super easy to make. It's like baking a little cake. And then you just leave them and they harden pretty quickly. And that's also like a great thing for kids to do.
Well, that's neat. I'm going to check that out. That is very cool. Well, Megan, geez, I hope everybody comes and checks out your website. I love what you're doing, and thank you for keeping on paying it forward. Thank you for your leadership and showing us the simplest, funnest way to keep on sharing the ripple effect of kindness out there in the world.
Thank you.
And as we say, shine your light, right?
Yes, exactly. We all need to shine our lights for others because, there's a lot of darkness right now in the world, or perceived darkness. And so we all need to, think about others and, try and brighten their day.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming on today. Thank you. You were so generous and responded so fast to help come on and participate with me here on my podcast. And thank you to everybody that is watching and will watch in hopefully the future.
Great. Excellent. Thank you so much.
And I look forward to being your friend for a long time on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Well, thank you, everybody. Another wonderful episode of Shine Your Light. And thank you all for tuning in, and go and enjoy checking out Megan's website, the Kindness Rocks Project.
Awesome is a free social networking game focusing on positivity. Engage in a variety of awesome challenges to spread positivity in the world. Watch as the ring around your profile glows brighter, changes colors, and gets more animated as you earn points sharing in awesome. Share your own awesome world and see how much awesome you are creating by watching the leaderboard. Purchase ad gift points to help your friends level up in the form of shiny animated coins. You are awesome. Download today.